Hello there, music lovers. Thank you so much for stopping by this channel. I really do appreciate it. Have you seen the prank that Dave Grohl played on Sweden? He recently played a show with the Foos in Gothenburg, Sweden. It was the scene of the crime. It was where he broke his leg in 2015. It was actually 3 years ago this month that the Foos played in Sweden, and Dave Grohl, just 2 songs into the set, he falls off the stage and he breaks his leg. And not only that, but he breaks his leg. He tells the crowd, "I will be back." And he goes to the hospital. The band is still playing. The drummer, Taylor Hawkins, he can sing while he's playing drums. So he entertains the crowd for an hour. Dave comes back and the band plays. And Dave has got a broken leg. All right, that's the kind of badass band that the Foos are and the kind of cool guy that Dave Grohl is. So now, they just played the same venue. They went back. And this time, Grohl decided, all right, I'm going to play a little trick on the fans. So the band comes out on stage, right? The show's getting ready to start. There's no Dave. Finally, this guy comes running out looking like Dave, and he runs out onto the catwalk, and he runs right off the stage and into a pit, and it's hilarious. I will put the link below so you can go check it out. And then, of course, Dave comes on stage not too long after that and gets the show going. And, it just kind of got me thinking, how badass is Dave Grohl? I mean, you can hate the Foo Fighters music, but you got to give him props for being creative and having the passion. And just, you can tell that his heart is in it. And the Foo Fighters do a lot of things that a lot of bands would not have the balls to do. So, as a matter of fact, I think the Foo Fighters are the last great American band, especially one to come out of the 90s. How many other bands can you think of from the 90s that have got the huge catalog of hits and memorable songs, that could appeal from a 10-year-old to a 70-year-old? I mean, the Foos have got those kinds of songs, like the Eagles, let's say, that, these songs are the soundtrack to your life with mass appeal. We're losing those types of bands. There used to be a dime a dozen in the 60s and 70s and maybe the 80s, but the 90s, there's nobody left. And I was thinking about how Dave Grohl, to me, is like the Phil Collins of this generation. Both guys were drummers in major bands. That's how they got their start. And then both were faced with losing their lead singers. Of course, with Grohl, you had Kurt, who killed himself in Nirvana. And with Phil Collins, Peter Gabriel decided to leave Genesis. And they both started off as drummers, Phil and Dave. They were not songwriters and they were not singers. And that's something that they had to find within themselves. And they had to hone those skills. And they not only did it, but they did it very, very well. And they took it upon themselves to better themselves, and they led bands and they won over hearts. And they became the guy that you needed if you needed a studio guy. If you had a sickness or somebody couldn't perform live, they were there. Dave Grohl recently performed with Ghost. I did a video about them. These guys wear these masks and everything, so you don't know who the hell's behind them. Grohl played drums for Ghost at a show somewhere. Phil Collins played for Led Zeppelin at Live Aid. I mean, it sucked. He got his ass chewed out by Jimmy Page, but hey, But Collins has done a lot of production. He produced Robert Plant and Eric Clapton, and then you got Dave Grohl. He's done a lot of production. He's done a lot of session work. And Dave has done a lot of other great stuff. I mean, the list is so long. Let's not forget that Dave Grohl is also a great filmmaker. He's made a couple of great things. Sound City is a really good documentary about this studio out in California that was the home to the recording of many great classic albums by Fleetwood Mac and Tom Petty and all these other guys. And it also talked about this great mixing board called the Neve board. And it was a really cool board, it just had this really good sound quality about it. It was so good that Dave Grohl bought it because the studio was getting ready to close. That was something else about the documentary. And so Dave buys it and he takes it to his own studio, and then he makes an album with it. He invites a lot of the guys that were in the film to make an album. So you can see how Dave is just very forward thinking. He evolved it. He didn't just do a documentary, he evolved it. And then he really knocked it out with Sonic Highways, which also is my favorite Foo Fighters album. That's a great, great album. he basically went to all these cities across the US and he immersed himself along with the band. They wrote songs for each of the cities. Then there was a documentary for each of the cities. It was an HBO thing. And then, they're not done yet. The band played these really small clubs in each of these cities. And I remember that he played Nashville. The Foos played Nashville on Halloween. And they went to the Ryman, which, if you know that place, it's a pretty small, I mean, it's not like a club, but it's definitely smaller than any place that the Foos would ever play. But they not only showed up there, but they showed up dressed up like Kiss. So it's like one badass thing after another. Dave Grohl was also the keynote speaker at South by Southwest. He's a great speaker. You love to listen to him. He just has a way about him, and you connect with him. And he talked about how, the music and the musicians are first, and he lives by that. And so, props for that. There's been times where the band, they're really good to the fans. One time there was a fan with cerebral palsy that he got involved with, and then he had this kid that wanted to play drums up on stage, and so they brought the kid up during the show, and he did a drum solo, and pretty funny, the kid would not leave. Like Grohl was trying to get the kid's dad to come get him, and that was pretty funny. Then you got Dave's mom. She's probably the coolest rock and roll mom. She wrote a book about being a rock and roll mother. Now I think they're doing like a series. Grohl is just a great guy, and the Foo Fighters too. Like I said, the last great American band. This is a band that is highly creative. You can tell the joy in all that they do, whether they're helping fans, they want to go play a record store, they want to go play a really small venue, they want to make a film, anything that they want to do, they do. And they do it with a lot of joy, and they've brought a lot of excitement into an otherwise very boring rock scene. And so I want to know what you think. What do you think about the Foo Fighters? Are they the last great American band? If you know any other bands from the 90s that have the strengths of the Foo Fighters, put them down below. I would like to know. And let me know what you think about this prank that Dave played in Sweden. Like I said, check below for that video footage. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up if you like it. Hit subscribe, and I will talk to you later.